A man took a trip 2 years after his wife and daughter's funeral. His life was forever changed by the sight at the part of his dead wife and child. Amy's kid Max and her lover Chester were the two most important people in her life. She started seeing him 3 years ago, and by 2016, they were living together. Chester didn't want to be married to Amy, despite the fact that they had a child together and were living in the same house. He also frequently arrived home late, explaining to Amy that he had worked tirelessly to ensure that he could provide Max and her with the finest of everything. Amy trusted Chester's word that he was working late to help the family's finances and never imagined he was exaggerating. A few years later, she would find out a stunning truth that she had no idea of at the time. But as far as Amy could tell, things were looking up for the time being. She counted herself lucky to have such a handsome boy and such a kind companion. And one summer, she felt like the luckiest woman on earth as she stood before Chester and said, "I do," in a small ceremony. Before Amy had to depart to see her sick mother, she and little Max were settling in nicely to married life. Amy departed in the morning after Chester left for work to visit her mother, who resided in another city a few miles away. Amy had packed snacks and toys to keep her 3-year-old son occupied on the long car ride. Chester, meanwhile, was hard at work, waiting for Amy to phone from her mother's house. When Amy's mom called Chester later that night, he was relieved to see her name pop up on the screen. He heaved a sigh of relief and picked up the phone. "Chester, Chester, you need to come here right now," Amy's mother cried on the other end. When Chester heard those words, his heart literally jumped. He had no clue what was upsetting Amy's mom so much. He asked, "What happened? Is there something wrong?" "Amy and Max, they died," Amy's mother stammered. "Their car crashed before they could reach my house." "What?" Chester gasped. "Amy and Max? No, no, no." He hung up and hastened to the airport to get a plane ticket. There was a problem getting to Amy's mother's city because every airline was sold out. He planned to see his wife and son one final time, so he purchased a ticket for the next day. Unfortunately, Chester was unable to make it to Amy's mother's house in time to attend the burial when he arrived the following day. Amy's mom informed him that she and Max's bodies had been cremated. After losing his wife and son, Chester's world was flipped upside down, but he found someone who loved him unconditionally. His mistress, Cynthia, was there for him during the darkest times of his life. Chester's mistress, Cynthia, had been his for months, but he never told Amy. His repeated assurances that he'd come home from work to spend time with Cynthia were always disregarded. Chester welcomed Cynthia into his home after the death of his wife. His mistress, however, turned out to be very different from his beloved Amy. Cynthia was a social butterfly who avoided adulthood by always attending parties. Amy, on the other hand, found fulfillment in providing for her loved ones at the expense of her own happiness. After dating Cynthia for a while, Chester decided Amy was the one for him. Chester eventually asked Cynthia if she wanted kids. "Honey, I'm not ready to start a family right now," she informed him. "I'm not ready to be a mother. Raising a child is a great burden." Since Chester could do nothing except accept his girlfriend's decisions, he dropped the subject. He had a wonderful life with her until a shocking turn of events brought up old wounds. Cynthia told Chester she had a surprise for him around 2 years after Amy and Max's funeral. When he got home from work, she showed him tickets to another city. "We're going to have fun there, Chester," Cynthia exclaimed. "My friend told me about many good places to visit there." Chester looked at the destination on the tickets and told his partner he wasn't prepared to go there. "You know, my wife and my son were cremated in that city," he told Cynthia. "I don't have the guts to go there." "Oh, come on, sweetheart," Cynthia reassured him. "I won't give you any time or space to dwell on the past. Let's get together and have a blast." Chester decided to fly with Cynthia so that he could take some time off from work and enjoy himself. However, Cynthia became unwell just 2 days after arriving in the new city. "I think we need to see a doctor, honey," she said to Chester. Chester did not waste any time and rushed her to the emergency room. While they were checking her out, he was advised to wait outside. He decided to leave the hospital and go for a stroll in the park. As he entered the park close to the medical center, he saw a woman he recognized playing with a child. "Is that Amy?" he said and rushed towards the woman. "Oh my," Chester exclaimed. "Amy, is that you?" When Amy finally turned around, she found Chester standing directly behind her. Chester's pupils dilated in astonishment. The fact that his son and wife were still alive astounded him. "Get back," Amy shouted. "What do you mean? What happened, Amy?" Chester asked. "I have nothing to do with you." Amy rolled her eyes. "You're a cheater." Then, Amy filled him in on the events of 2 years prior. She claimed that while Chester was at work, a woman arrived to their home and introduced herself as his mistress. "She told me she was pregnant with your child," Amy shouted. "I tried to confront you, but you never had time to talk to me. That's when I decided to leave you." Then, Amy revealed that her mother had lied about their deaths and gone along with the plan. She exclaimed, "I couldn't let my son live with a cheater like you." Shock swept through Chester. He had no idea his extramarital affair would lead to such a significant outcome. As he started to say, "I'm sorry," but Max ran up to a man and shouted, "Daddy, Daddy." Chester stared at the man in disbelief. Amy had moved on with her life, having found love and married another guy. Chester's phone rang at an opportune moment. "Hi, Cynthia," Chester said. "Honey, where are you?" She cried out. "The doctor said I'm pregnant." "Wow, you're pregnant?" "Yes, but I don't want this child," she sobbed. "As in, I don't want to be a mother." Cynthia was pregnant for the second time in 2 years, and she didn't want to have a child each time. 2 years ago, she lied about being pregnant to ruin Chester's family. Chester was stunned by Cynthia's actions, but he also felt he deserved punishment from fate for betraying Amy. He abandoned her at the hospital and returned to his hometown. What can we learn from this story? It only takes one bad choice to wipe out your entire fortune. Chester had no idea that his affair with Cynthia would cause him to be disowned by his loved ones. He felt terrible about what he had done to his wife. When you take another person's life, you take away your own chance for a peaceful existence. Cynthia lied to Chester's wife and thought she might live happily ever after with him, but karma had other plans. Chester abandoned her, and she was forced to raise their child on her own. Please share this story with your friends and family. It might inspire them and brighten their day.